you'll see hitters not only with a vast variety of stances, but also in the way they start their bat. But truthfully, we don't hit from the stance. Remember, the stance is nothing more than a foundation, an athletic position to develop rhythm and be comfortable. So if I'm going to start a young hitter in a good position with the upper body, there's a couple of key elements that we're going to look at. The first element is the grip. The grip's very important. We want to make sure that we hold the bat in the base of the fingers, not in the deep part of the hand. What happens with a lot of young hitters, they hold the bat in the deep part of their hand and squeeze the bat and they develop tension in their forearms, they become very slow. We want to try to keep the bat at the base of the fingers. And what I have hitters do is I have them hold the bat with the bottom 3 fingers and take the forefinger off the bat and just hold the bat in this fashion. And if you notice, when I do that, the bat falls from that pad of my forefinger to the fat part of my hand in the back side in this fashion. This will allow me not only to control the bat, but it will also allow me to have and generate the most force when I get to the contact point. So don't overlook the grip. From the grip, what I like to have hitters do is just lay the bat on their shoulder, grab the bat with both hands, and then we have our door knocking knuckles that we use to knock on the door with. We want to try to line up those door knocking knuckles. And most hitters will either line up the knuckles or they will slightly split the difference of the door knocking knuckles and that last set of knuckles. If I lay the bat on my shoulder, relax my elbows, then I'm going to fall pretty much into a good position to grip the bat. Now from there, we're going to pick the bat up. It's very important that I think we start in a good position. And in fast pitch softball, I like to tell our hitters that we should start our bat somewhere around our back shoulder and somewhere where our bottom hand is at the top of the strike zone. If the strike zone is the armpits to the top of the knees, the top part of that zone, the armpits, we should be able to hit anything that's below our armpits. And so why not start our hands at the top? One of the most common problems you see in young hitters is starting their hands too low. And if they start too low and the ball goes up in a zone, obviously they're going to have to swing up. And what results in a swing that goes up? A pop-up. So let's start off to give ourselves the best opportunity to be successful by getting our bottom hand at the top of the strike zone. The next thing is the bat's held at a 45-degree angle. And if you look at me right now, 2 common things you want to stay away from. One is holding the bat too straight up and down. The other is holding the bat too flat. Both of these cause problems. You have a hard time and you have to change directions twice to be able to get on plane of the pitch. By holding the bat at a 45-degree angle, now I'm in a very good, strong position to be able to go directly to the ball. And in softball, we want to be efficient from point A to point B. We want to minimize any movement that we have so that we can maximize our efficiency of getting to the ball. The other thing in bat position is to be strong. You want to be in a good, strong position. So a really good way to get kids in a good, strong position is to just have them take the bat with one hand as if they were going to throw it out to the center fielder and see where they would put their hands. And most of the time, it's going to be somewhere in here. And then if I put my bottom hand on the bat, I'm in a pretty good position to start my swing. Okay, another area we're going to talk about in the stance is to make sure that you have your front shoulder slightly lower than your back. We want to try to set the plane of our swing as soon as possible. A good way to show to make sure that your front side is lower than your back is to lay a bat through your arms and get in the position to hit. And if you notice right now that the knob of the bat is pointing lower than my backside. If I'm in a bad posture, what you're going to see a lot of young hitters is that knob going up, and so therefore we know that we have problems with keeping our front side lower than our back. In the stance, the weight is usually 50-50. That means that my weight is heads over my belly button, my weight's right down the middle of my body. I'm not sitting back here or I'm not sitting forward. The other thing is if you notice my arms are nice and relaxed and my lead arm is in an L position. It's in a 90-degree angle. One of the common problems with young hitters is they straighten this arm, and the minute that you lock this arm up, now you cannot unlock your body parts correctly, and what you do is you start generating a real long swing where you have to use your upper body to swing the bat. And so why not start in a proper position where the hands are nice and relaxed, lead arm is in an L, elbows are down, bat's out of 45, front shoulder slightly lower than the back, and now we can create a little bit of rhythm, and I call this small rhythm. Remember we talked about big rhythm in the stance? Well, once we get our hands up, we're going to continue that rhythm, but it becomes a small rhythm, a very subtle rhythm, but as you see, my body's in motion at all times.
To review, to start your lower body in the proper position, keep your feet outside your hips. Keep your knees inside your feet. Bend at the waist, flex your ankles and knees, and put your weight on the balls of your feet. To start your upper body in the proper position, hold the bat with your bottom 3 fingers. Make sure the bat falls from the base of your first finger to the bottom of your hand. Grab the bat with both hands and line up your door-knocking knuckles. Place the bat around your back shoulder and align your top hand with the top of the strike zone. Hold your bat at a 45-degree angle. Keep your front shoulder slightly lower than your back shoulder. Keep your arms relaxed and your lead arm in an L position.
Okay, the next area we're going to talk about is going to be the loading or the triggering phase. And that really means nothing more than making a movement back toward the catcher. We want to make a movement back where we're able to stay on the plane of the pitch. We don't want to see any twisting with our upper body or our lower body at this point. The move is initiated with a heel lift. And the heel lift is nothing more than taking our front foot and lifting our heel slightly where we roll on the inside of our foot. And if you see right there, all I'm doing is transferring my weight back to the inside of my back leg. And it's a very simple move, but it's a very crucial move. This is what really gets ourselves started as a hitter. And as you can see right there, when I load my legs, my hands slightly move backwards. A key element in this move is timing of it. One thing that I've found with good hitters is good hitters are able to slow the game down. And the way they slow the game down is they can make this move in a nice smooth fashion before they recognize the pitch and react. A lot of young hitters will wait to the last minute and all of a sudden this move becomes very violent and very quick. Okay, so one of the things we're going to try to teach you to do is to stay on plane of the pitch and to try to make this move done nice and soon and smooth. We want to try to start this as soon as we can and control this move, and all we're doing is getting into our backside, making sure that our weight finishes on the inside of our back leg. Another key element in this movement, or the triggering phase or loading phase, is the front knee goes directly back toward the back knee. A lot of young hitters will try to lift their heel, and they'll lift their heel in this fashion, and what you see is my knee going forward. Well, obviously if my knee goes forward, there's no way that I've transferred my weight back. And if I do a good job of transferring my weight back by initiating that heel lift, the front knee should roll in, slightly in, toward my back knee. In the loading phase, we also want to make sure that we're getting our hands into a strong position. And a couple of things that I'd like to mention to you. First of all, is we want to try to keep any movement that we make back on plane of the pitch. We don't want to see any kind of twisting that occurs where we're taking our hands or our lower body away from the plane of the pitch. This will cause a lot of problems with young hitters. Most of the time, if my hands go back in here, then they have to go forward to get back out away from my body. And a lot of times what will happen is the hands go out and they start casting, and now I create a very long swing. If we keep our hand movement back toward the catcher, then we're going to assure ourselves that we're going to stay on plane. If I gave you a ball and put it in your hand and I had you throw the ball, you would make sure that your hand is in a nice strong position. You wouldn't throw a ball from behind your ear, you would throw a ball right out in here where it's strong. Same thing in the loading phase, we want to get our hands in a strong position. Hey, if you watch TV, you're going to see some crazy things happen. And you wonder, how can a guy hit when they're holding their bat straight up in the air? Well, the key is, like we mentioned, the stance means nothing. I can stand like this if it's comfortable and I can create rhythm, because we hit when that front foot gets down. We hit from that stride phase. And what you're going to see a lot of hitters do is they may be comfortable up here, but once that front foot gets down, they're in a good, strong position to launch this bat. And a good, strong position for me is somewhere even or just slightly back of the back shoulder. The other thing that you're going to notice is that my top hand is always cocked. Okay? If I'm going to try to go from extension to flexion, I've got to cock my top hand. Young hitters sometimes have a tendency to lay the bat back. And that's a very vulnerable position, a very weak position. We want to make sure that you're in a strong position to throw. In order to do that, the elbow is going to be free. We're going to generate some spacing in here, but we're going to make sure that in that loading phase that we're able to control that move and get our hands back in a strong position to begin the next move in hitting.
To review the loading phase, lift your front heel and roll on the inside of your foot. Transfer your weight to the inside of your back leg. Move your hands backwards, keeping your motion smooth. Move your front knee directly towards the back knee. Keep your top hand cocked.
Okay, the next phase we're going to talk about is the stride, and this is another area that there's a lot of variety. The one thing about the stride that we need to understand, hitting involves two movements. It involves linear movement and it involves rotational movement. The stride, to make it very simple to you, the stride is your vehicle for linear movement. Your stride is your vehicle to get yourself toward the pitcher in a strong position to hit. So let's begin by talking about some of the different ways that people will stride. Whether I use an open stance, a square stance, or a closed stance, one of the common things I see in good hitters is they all end up in a fairly square position. Because obviously we want to try to hit through the zone, and we want to try to hit through a large zone. Being square to the pitch allows me the best success of getting through the ball for the longest period of time. Anytime that we stride closed, we're going to have a hard time staying through that zone. Anytime we stride open, we're going to have a hard time staying through that zone. Another area I'd like to cover about the stride is the timing of the stride. Probably the most important aspect of hitting is making sure that we're getting our foundation down early enough that we can recognize the pitch and react to the pitch. Most of the time in softball, you can talk to a lot of different players, and a lot of times what I found they key on is when the pitcher's front knee comes up is usually their indication to make sure that they're getting their front foot down. Now that's pretty soon. Some hitters will do it even sooner. Some hitters will do it when the arm comes up. Some hitters will do it a little later. The ball may be 4 feet out in front of them. But the key is we want to try to slow things down, so I would prefer that you get your stride foot down sooner than too late. I don't think you can get it down too early. But the thing about being early is you've got to also make sure that you keep your body in a good, strong position, that you don't lock up your knees and get very rigid, because now you're going to get slow and you can't react and can't generate power. Another thing in the stride is when I perform the stride, you'll notice that my shoulders, my hips, and my knees stayed parallel to home plate. Most good hitters, when they stride, will stride with their toe either at a 45-degree angle or at a 90-degree angle. For some hitters, a 90-degree angle causes a lot of stress on that front knee. A lot of hitters will be at a 45. The thing that we don't want to do is open up beyond a 45, because now we start opening up our hips. And anytime we start opening up our hips, now we're going to start cutting off our opportunity to stay through that zone, and we're going to start swinging around the ball. So when you achieve and you perform the stride, you should make sure that your shoulders, your hips, and your knees stay parallel to the plane of the pitch.